Hello and welcome to another episode of The Art Department, BCPS TV's own arts-based learning show, where we show you some tutorials and best practices from around the county so that you can learn some art at home. This month, I'm going to be showing you a little bit about my own art department here at Lansdowne High School. I teach computer graphics and video production, as well as fundamentals of art, and we have 3 other art teachers that I'd like to introduce to you in between some of our segments. But first, let's look at some tutorials from around the county.
I'm Miss Gogger and we're in clay class right now. Woohoo! We decided that everyone can take clay. Students that like to build and like to do hands-on things. We do sketch and do drawings to plan everything out. But mixed media is clay 3. You take clay 1 and clay 2 in 2 semesters. And then mixed media, you're building sculptures out of more materials than just clay, but students still use clay. It's a nice advanced level class for students.
You can see my Premiere here is set up a little bit funky for viewing, but generally it's going to come up something like this, where we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 main panels, and then we've got our tools across the top and our menus above that. The first panel, we want to switch right over to the project panel. All right, it tells you what your demo is. You can see there's one thing in there called sequence. Now that sequence is what's down here. It's essentially your timeline of the video production you're about to create. What we need to do here is bring in the rest of those video files that we copied over. So there's a couple ways to do that. I prefer the double click on the empty space method, or you can go to File and Import. It's just kind of a shortcut, double clicking the empty space. Because I put my project here, it went right to my Nicholas demo folder. And here are my folders. Again, clicking on one of them, top or bottom, holding shift, clicking on the top of them will open and import all of them at once. And they'll come into my project file. A lot of different programs refer to this as the bin, and I like that name for it because it's the container. It's where all your stuff comes from, right? And the workflow for editing in Premiere goes a little bit like this. Each project source file, 5 through 8 as I have here, is in the bin, and if I double click on its icon, not the name, notice if I double click, or if I click on the name, it wants me to rename it. Not a bad idea if you have a whole bunch of files, makes it easier to search through them. But just for working with a few files like this, double clicking them will open them up in your preview window. Now the preview window is fantastic because it allows you to view your files and also set in and out points to use only those portions of the file that you want. So I'm going to use my spacebar. That is the one keyboard shortcut that if you are working in Premiere you should know. Any window that you're working on, the active window, spacebar will be both your play and pause button. So I got a little walk up here into the class. Maybe I'll use that as B-roll or something like that. But for right now, I'm just going to go to the next one. I don't know what I'm going to do with that, so I want to find something that I really want to use. Let's watch this one.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
They have a stock market game, so.
Well, he said they have a stock market game. Maybe I'll use that. Let's look at the next one.
This is my stock portfolio.
Your stock portfolio?
Yeah.
Can you tell me what you got in it?
No, because it's in the negatives. I don't want to tell you.
Oh no! So is this for the personal finance challenge?
This, yeah, well, this is actually.
All right, so I did something while you're watching here. I actually set an in point and an out point just so we could watch that. And I use the keyboard because I like it and it's really intuitive because it's the keys I and O allow you to set an in point and out point. I have this clip here that now starts with Mr. Martin talking about what his class is doing, and he gives a pretty good explanation here from what I remember. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play
And that'll be an equal. These guys are doing.
and back it up a little bit. You can move this little blue cursor around as you like, scrolling through. There's lots of other tools and controls down here, but I'm just going to do it automatically with this. And I'm going to wait for
So is this
Mr.
for
Martin
the
to start
personal finance
talking.
challenge?
This, yeah, well, this is.
So when he says, well, this is, I know that's kind of the start of it.
Personal finance challenge?
This, yeah, well, this is actually the personal finance challenge will be
And
in
I
the
hit,
spring. That'll be an equal. These guys
I.
are doing their own individual stock portfolio.
That even sounds better. These guys are doing their individual stock portfolio. So listening for the end of that phrase, April.
The personal finance challenge will be in the spring, and that'll be an equal. These guys are doing their own individual stock portfolios now.
I can check
And they're also
that
working as.
with this button here that says go to endpoint. And then I'll just click that.
These guys are doing their own individual.
I missed it by a little bit. So I need to go back to my endpoint and just use my arrow keys to back it up a little bit. Try my endpoint again.
Cool. These guys are doing their own individual stock portfolios now, and they're also working as teams to start the game that they compete against 1,600 schools up and down the East Coast. And we had somebody here that was ranked 9th recently, right?
So I set an out point when he said East Coast because it sounded like a good natural pause. All right. And what I have now is this little clip selected out from all of the rest of this 2 minute and 21 second recording that I can click on my recording and bring it down to my timeline. And all it brought down is this clip here.
Cool. These guys are doing their own individual stock portfolios now, and they're also working as
From
teams
endpoint to
start the
outpoint.
game that they compete against 1,600 schools up and down the East Coast.
And it goes black. Notice that that got played on the right hand side. This is my program monitor. So again, my workflow is to double click on your icon, bring it in, come over here, find some good little clip of information. So let me go near the end here. This girl talks about some good stuff.
Explain the screen to me.
Oh, this screen?
Set an endpoint with I.
Our budget project, we have to choose a car. And for that car, we have to get a loan. So you put in how much your car is worth its total. You put in your interest rate, which we decided based upon our grades. So if you had straight A's, then the interest rate is 3%. And sales tax, and then it breaks it down for how much it would be per month. And it just
There's my out. Okay, so I just set an in point for the beginning of that and an out point for the end, and I'm going to click on the image and bring it down. If for some reason I wanted only the image and not the sound, I can drag video only from this icon here, or just sound only from this icon here. And now, in my sequence, I have these two clips of Mr. Martin talking, and then the student talking. Now notice the difference between this frame here and this frame here. That means I didn't choose the correct sequence setting in the beginning, and for the most part that doesn't matter a ton. What I can do to correct it is select my files here, right click, and scale to frame size. That's going to bring that down to the right size, make sure I have everything in, or if it's too small, expand it to fill the frame. At this point, I just line up my clips. And if to do cuts only editing, that's all you need to do, putting shots next to each other.
I'm Miss Sentis. I teach Art 2, and basically in here, this is for students that are getting ready to take studio art in the future and kind of explore a little bit more about fine arts, learning to draw from observation. We do, what you see students doing here is printmaking, making stencils. We've done life drawing this year, and we're going to do some other awesome projects.
Yo, let's do this. Yo, let's do this. Colors, colors.
My name is Miss G. I teach photo, and I teach fundamentals. I teach AP photo and photojournalism at Lansdowne High School. And photography is a really cool course because you get to learn the basics of photography, real cameras, real film. You get to work in the darkroom, which is really awesome. So you get to work in the special space that nobody really knows much about except photo students. You also get to wander around the school taking photos of like what is going on at Lansdowne High School. Once students take Photo 1, they actually move on to AP Photo, where they can submit an AP portfolio, which they can have for college credit. So it's a pretty awesome program to get involved with.
So in this tutorial, we're going to take a quick look at using our own fonts on the web. I've got a basic HTML site right here. I've got the background in. You can see I've already started my cascading style sheet. But the font that's in here, I can stick with the standard, font families that Dreamweaver assumes every computer has. Or I could kind of span out and see what happens. With our new browsers in place and CSS3 in place, we're able to take and use our own fonts and use them pretty effectively in web design. So to do that, I need to leave Dreamweaver for a moment, head over to my browser, and pull up a site called Font Squirrel. They are free fonts. There's tons of different kinds in here. But the beauty of this is that most of these fonts also come in the web format. So there's something that can be used inside of a website environment. So I'm going to come through, I'm going to choose a font here. And when you choose a font, you can see that it gives you the layout of what's in there. But what you're looking for is this right here where it says Web Font Kit. When I click on that, a lot of them will give me the idea of being able to download a full kit. Now if you can't download the full kit, you can download the open typeface and convert it with the web font generator, but that's another tutorial entirely. What we need to do is come in here and we want to pull down the entire font face kit. This will come down as a zipped file. You can see it showing up right there. You just need to save this to your folder. And it'll only take a second because it's a small font. Notice here though, what you're getting are all of these different formats. So you're getting the TrueType font, which is what we normally use inside of the Windows environment. We've got an EOT font, which is for Internet Explorer only. The WFF font, which is a standard that will go across all different browsers, I believe except Internet Explorer. And the SVG, which is a scalable vector graphic for our iPads and iPhones and things of that nature. What we're going to do is actually take all of these fonts and have our web browser tell whatever browser is reading it which font it wants to use, and then it'll pull whichever font it needs for the website. So let's go ahead and switch over to our folder. You can see I've downloaded the zip file right here. And what we need to do is pull out those files. You can see right here I've got my EOT all the way down to my WOFF. So I'm going to go ahead and take those. I'm going to copy those out of the zip and then just paste it right back in. So now I have a nice place that I can find it. You can see I've had some other web fonts here already decompressed. But I've got my new Babus new font right here, so I got all 4 of my files. And I'm going to switch over to Dreamweaver. And now inside Dreamweaver, I've got to tell Dreamweaver I've got this font that I want to use. So it's really simple. I'm going to come up top here to go to Modify, and down under where it says Web Fonts, I'm just going to go ahead and click on it. And you can see Dreamweaver already is aware of those other fonts. And all I want to do is click on Add Font. And when it pops up, it gives me this dialog box, and it's saying, well, we want all 4 of these different formats. I don't have to worry about typing anything in. All I need to do is go and click on one of these folders. So if I do the EOT font, I'm going to go ahead and come inside of here, and I'll want to go and find on my desktop my folder where all of my fonts are, and this will be wherever you saved yours. So inside of here you can see it's only going to show me the EOT fonts, if you remember that big list we just saw. I'm going to choose my Babus, or however we want to pronounce that font, and go ahead and hit open. And Dreamweaver will automatically find all the other ones for me. Now I do have to come down here and legally check off and tell Dreamweaver, yes, this font is allowed to be used on the web. And I'll go ahead and hit OK. And now it's going to be added into my list. I'll go ahead and hit done. Notice nothing's changed, except now when I come over here and create a new rule, I'm just going to make this easy to find, so I'll just name it the same as the font. When I come in here, when I choose from my font families, it's now going to be listed down here at the bottom. When I go ahead and click on that, I can adjust file sizes. I can adjust however I want the color to be, anything you normally would, because it's going to use it just the same. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK on that class. And I'm going to come into my text that I have in here, go ahead and highlight it just like I normally would, and come down and go ahead and add on my new font. Now when I click on it, notice it still looks like Times New Roman. It's because right now Dreamweaver is not trying to figure out what font that I'm using. It's just giving me a generic size and spacing layout. If I want to see what the font actually looks like, I've got to come up here and click on Live, or go ahead and save the file and preview it in a browser. When I click on Live, you'll see that the font actually does appear the way it's supposed to appear. And just like that, you can use any font you want on the web.
This is Televideo Class, and we make videos for our YouTube channel, LHS Televideo, Televideo, and we do the morning announcements every day. And right now we're working on documentaries for the end of the year documentary film festival. Moonwalk. Yeah, that's what we call it. 125 is also where we do multimedia class, and in multimedia we get a kind of a good introduction to the various different Adobe programs. And hey guys,
Hi.
like Photoshop and Illustrator, and right now we're learning After Effects, which is a pretty awesome animation program. So yeah, multimedia.
Once you've taken your photographs, open each of them in Photoshop. Test out some of the selection tools to begin selecting your body. I'm using the polygonal lasso tool to make an initial selection around the form. This selection tool will not provide a tight selection around objects, so I will likely need to go back and edit, refine later. Switch to the Move tool on the toolbar and drag your selected form to one of the other documents. I suggest completing the background first and foreground last. Move the selected layer around the image until it fits into place. Be careful to align all parts of the layer to the layer beneath.
This is what you get. This is what you get.
Move into the second image and follow the same steps for selecting your objects and moving into your other composition. Practice using some of the other selection tools. Here I'm using the Quick Selection tool to select the form. Zoom into an area that you need to fix by holding down the Alt key while scrolling with the mouse. To add to a selection, hold down the Shift key, or to subtract from a selection, hold down the Alt key. I need to remove the areas between and around my arms so that the background can show through. You can use any of the selection tools to add and subtract, such as the lasso, the magnetic lasso, the polygonal lasso, etc. If you need to refine any of the areas of your layers, you can use a layer mask. With the desired layer selected in your layers palette, hold down Alt and click on the Add Layer Mask icon at the bottom of the layers palette. A layer mask allows you to control a layer's level of transparency. With the layer mask selected, you can now paint using the paintbrush, white or black, and your brush becomes either a transparent brush to reveal what's beneath, or it will add in the pixels above. A black brush cuts away the mask and reveals what's underneath. A white brush will hide what's above. Any shades of gray are varying opacities. I can now paint in levels of transparency where I need it on my image.
studio students have taken Art 1 and then Fine Arts, which is Art Level 2, and then they'll take Studio because they really are interested in art and want to grow as an artist. Yeah, we're having fun in Studio. They're using oil paint and trying new techniques and experimenting. Like, it's just fun during Studio because they're all working on easels and the whole class is spread out. And they all critique each other's work and talk to each other about their work all the time.
So what's the goal of Studio? Like, who should take that?
They are doing an AP exam. 5 of the students out of the 10 are taking the AP exam, and they're working on evolving their portfolio and figuring out who they are as an artist.
I hope that you're finding some of these lessons entertaining and interesting, and maybe even some of them come from some classes that aren't offered at your school. Maybe you're a middle school student trying to figure out what school you'd like to go to, as there are so many wonderful programs offered through BCPS Magnet Schools. If there's a particular type of lesson or tutorial you'd like to see on the art department, just send me an email at bnicklas, that's Nicklas, at bcps.org with any comments or questions you might have for any member of our art department. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next month on the art department.